a very small category of warriors, real warriors. And I want to say that is a whole different mentality. So I've worked with people who had the courage to jump on grenades and kill themselves to save everybody around them. That's the kind of mentality it takes to be a SEAL. Does every Navy SEAL have it? No. But that's what SEALs are. That's what we try to. That's why Navy SEAL training buzz is so hard. We're trying to find that person who's willing to go the distance. And the distance is your life. So when I'm talking to people right now, maybe what I say to you does not resonate because why you're not willing to give your life for something. Every SEAL, at least most, I can't speak for everyone, most of us are. A lot of people who go fight for this country, a lot of them are not willing to do that. Am I talking bad about them? No, don't take it and twist my words. People like to twist words. I thank you for your sacrifice. I thank you for that. But a lot of people are scared. Navy SEALs are scared also. But a lot of us have a way to realize what we have decided to do with our lives. And it takes a great sacrifice, and that sacrifice could be your life. And that you have to be able to do that to become a warrior. If you go into combat scared, you can be scared, but you can't be so scared it makes you afraid to fight. That makes sense. We're able to control that, and a lot of us are able to put ourselves in hell and become the devil.
Wow. Wow. So if you don't recognize that voice, that's David Goggins. David Goggins. I know last year, probably around this time, I had put up a video by David Goggins for I think it was probably a Boss commercial, a really motivational video that makes you just want to go out the house and go running. And, you know, of course, it's those Boss headphones. Either you're listening to music or they completely drown out everything that's going on around your environment, and you kind of listen to self. So today I was working from home and I happened on that video and I was listening to this motivational videos and David Goggins popped up and I was like, OMG, yo. If you guys want someone that will motivate the heck out of you, even though he doesn't believe in motivation, he says motivation is rubbish. But if you want someone that will motivate you, inspire you, and in the same video make you feel like the most pathetic human being ever discovered, listen to David Goggins, because he has one of those stories that's really about what you're able to accomplish as a human being and how so many of us are just so complacent and so mediocre and think so little of ourselves and our own abilities that we end up living we set our bar so low that we never really live up to our potential. Now, of course, with David, a lot of it has to do with physicality and endurance, because that's what he was. It's like it's physicality and being an ultra marathoner and being able to be a triathlete and being able to, I think he was in three branches of military in the United States. He was in the Army Rangers, he was in the Air Force, and I think one other one, the Navy SEALs. And of course, you know that it's not easy at all to get into those three things and become an elite in those three areas of the military. But he did it all. And not only did he do it all, he also left the military and felt propelled to challenge himself over and above the physical and brutal endurance that he had to go through in the military, and start competing in some of the, the hardest, actually I think he competes in the hardest ultra marathons ever in the world. So for example, one of the ones that he decided to compete in was 139 miles, I believe, in California. I don't know what desert it is in California, but basically it's 139 miles and you do it, I think, over 24 hours or some crazy stuff like that. So I don't know those people that go out and do that kind of thing, but that's what David Goggins did. So just a little bit about him, because he really inspired me today, and I wanted to share that with you. Today is Thoughtful Thursday, And usually what I do on Thoughtful Thursday is I try and give you some thoughts, and all of you can come up here in terms of maybe it's just something that popped up in your head where you were like, man, that really made me think about something. That really made me thoughtful about a certain area. Sorry, the sun is crazy. A certain area of my life. Well, today, David Goggins is one of those people that gave me pause for thought. And this is his story. Essentially, David was raised in and he's my mentor from Afar, by the way, today. So David was raised in a very abusive family, in a very abusive household. So he was one of those children that suffered a lot of trauma coming up. His father was in business, but the businesses his dad was in was participating in were sketchy, criminal type businesses. So just kind of the businesses that are a little bit on the fringes of between legal and illegal. And his dad, so for example, his dad ran a skating rink, which is pretty okay, right? But at the same time, his dad was a pimp and running a prostitution ring and bringing prostitutes from Canada into the United States. Some crazy type business like that. His dad was in the drug industry, and so he's doing some businesses that are kind of clean and legal, and on the side the dad is also doing these other sketchy type businesses. And of course David is having to live in a household where there's a lot of distraction. His dad was an alcoholic. His mom was working for the dad and would often be abused, so there was domestic violence in the family. Him as a kid, he would have to stand up and protect his mom at some times. And he would get beat by his dad like almost on the daily because he would try and protect his mom. Sometimes the mom would be dragged from the top of the stairs down the stairs by his dad. So all these things are happening in the household, on what a household that's supposed to be well off because they have all these businesses, but at the same time there's all this physical, emotional abuse going on in the family. So he grew up in that kind of environment. Then he grew up in that environment, but because they had the means, he went to schools where it was like basically he was one of the few black kids in the school. And so he would get threatened on the daily as well with racist remarks and being called nigger almost on a daily. Nigger, I'm gonna kill you, nigger. Those kind of things would be written on his books. And so he was living in fear all through high school, all through elementary, middle school, and all of that. So imagine coming out from a life like that, and then what exactly do you think of yourself, and what kind of person emerges from that kind of environment or upbringing? He ended up being someone who did not know who he was. He was constantly trying to mirror what he was seeing out there. So he would be mirroring the trends, one day he's trying to dress preppy, the next day he's trying to have his jeans all down on his, behind on his butt. He's trying to be someone other than he is and to be this fake person. And other times he would be ostracized because he was the only, black kid or whatever. So he didn't know who he was, right? He was trying to pretend to be something other than who he was. And then let's add another piece of childhood trauma. He had a learning disability as well. So I was listening to him being interviewed, and I was like, OMG, of all the things that someone has to go through, it's like trauma after trauma after trauma was David Goggins' life. So he ends up, finishing school, and he says he was basically cheating on all the exams and all the tests and copying off of other kids all the time in order for him to make it through. So he finishes high school and he has to do this test. It's not SAT. He says it's like a lower version of SAT. And he fails, he gets a 20. And actually a pass is 50. And so he keeps going back and he fails. And, his instructor was like, look, you're not going to be able to go into this new career. He wanted to go into the Air Force at the time unless you pass this test and get at a minimum 50. And so he finally is able to pass the test, and then he goes into the Air Force. And when he goes in, I'm telling this story, the whole thing. When he goes into the Air Force, he discovers his fear of water. He was just afraid. He was a fearful person. He discovers his fear of water. He discovers he has, I think, a sickle cell anemia trait. And he's hopeful because of the rigor of the training that somehow he will be removed from the military, and he's not, the army is not having it, they're forcing him to get into the water. He's, and it's usually the being pushed into the water, and you're kind of being waterboarded, because that's part of their training, is that they want to eliminate that ability for you to breathe, which is the biggest fear that a human being can ever have, is that waterboarding. That's why they use it for torture. And so he's going through all this rigor. And, he ends up, just wishing that he could just be taken out of this whole training thing and blah, blah, blah. And I think at the end, he does end up being removed from the Air Force. And it wasn't even medical. I think he said, oh yeah, he used that as an excuse. He said, because of my sickle cell trait and how I'm feeling, I think I'm worried about my health. And so he takes the out, and so he's removed from the training to be a SEAL, or to be in the Air Force. Well, he goes home, and then he realizes, because of his academics, he couldn't get a good job, right? So he couldn't go into college, he couldn't get a good job. So he's sitting on his mom's couch, and his mom is like, child, you got to get a job. You can't just be here every single day and not get a job. So the only job he's able to qualify for is an exterminator, like a restaurant exterminator. The people who go into the restaurants and they spray down the restaurants and they spray for roaches, that's what he ends up doing. And so on the daily, every night after restaurants close down, or when it's close to closing time, he would go and he'd be spraying for roaches and rodents and all of that. And that was his job. And then he would just go home, relax on the couch. He would be taking leftovers from the restaurants and eating. And so he moved from 175 pounds to 297 pounds, almost 300 pounds, okay? And his whole life has completely shifted and changed. So anyway, one day, apparently, he comes home, and is that Jonathan? Sorry, that's one of my kids coming in. Okay, so one day he ends up coming home from, hi Jonathan, I'm on live video, hi. I'll be right there because I need to go pick up Jordan. So anyway, one day he ends up coming home from his work as an exterminator, which he completely loathed, right? And then he comes home. Sorry, the distractions. He comes home, and he turns on the TV, and it's the Discovery Channel, and it's the Navy SEAL. Sometimes you'll catch it, like Navy SEAL boot camp type training, and you're seeing them going out in the water and then being told, hey, keep, whatever. They motivate them in the water, and they're telling them you have to stay in the water, for hours, no sleep. And so they document the whole process. And when he saw that, he was reminded of what possibly he could have quit. He could have made it and decided to quit. So he's looking at all these people who are suffering through the adversity, suffering through all the challenges of training, of Hell Week. It's called Hell Week in Navy SEALs. And he's like, doggone it, I need to go back and do this, because at this point in my life, I'm 297 pounds. At this point in my life, it's either I become that self-fulfilling prophecy of being that kid who is traumatized, and then later on and learning disabled and is not able to make anything out of their lives, which is, you're going to be a nothing. You're going to be unemployable. You're going to be, working basic, what is it called? Minimum wage all of your life. Or you can take this path of most resistance, which is get out of your comfort zone, stop limiting yourself, and go ahead and train to become the SEAL that you wanted to be. And let me tell you, like, his story is spectacular. He doesn't go in and completely become a SEAL off the gate. Number one, when he's calling all these recruiters, they're all saying no because of his weight versus his height. They're like, shoot, no, you don't make the cut. You have to lose 106 pounds in order for you to make this the next training level, the next class that's coming up, or, the next Navy SEAL, whatever, recruitment enrollment. And so he's told you have to lose 106 pounds. And guess what? The dude does it. In 3 months, he loses the weight. And not only is he like chubby, you know how you watch, this weight loss shows and you see them from, you know, this, they were like this and then like this a year later. Well, this is like 3 months. He drops 106 pounds by pushing himself every damn day. And like day one, he says he goes out and he runs. He's saying, I'm going to run 4 miles, because he had run before, you know, before he lost his ability, his endurance and his athletic ability. But he goes out and he runs like half a block and he walks the rest of the way and he comes home. So anyway, my point is, David Goggins, if you're someone who is struggling with anything in terms of physicality and endurance and mental blocks, that's someone you need to watch, because he ends up getting back, you know, losing the weight, getting back into the military. He ends up failing Hell Week the first week, Hell Week the second week, and then the third try of Hell Week is when he makes it through. And most people, I don't know what the percentage is in terms of the people who give up on Hell Week, but you know, it's a pretty high percentage of people that drop out, because what they're trying to do is basically do anything and everything that they can in order for you to get to that point where you're like, this is it. It's my life. I'm here for life. I'm going the distance, and the distance means life. So I had to put that quote at the beginning where he's talking about real warriors jump on grenades to save everyone around them. And that's just a very small group of people that are able to do that. And every SEAL team, everyone who makes the SEAL team, they know that combat is life and they cannot be afraid to fight, because that's what life is, y'all. That's what it is. And it's like a do or die mentality. And that's what it has to, you have to be in order for you to be and have that warrior mentality. So I wrote some things, some notes. Let me see how long I've been here. I usually don't like my videos to be this long. Ooh, yes. Okay. Let's try and make it 20. So I wrote some notes in terms of what I learned today from him, and that you can apply in terms of your life and your hope strategies. And one of the things I love about his story is he says he's not for everyone. Because even for me, when I looked at it, I was like, oh, no, that is extreme. That is extreme. I don't know that I can do all of that. No. But he says, okay, he says, number one, the lessons that he learned are that you have to be able to go towards the truth of who you are. So when I talked about how when he was a youngster, for a long time, he didn't know who he was, and he was not willing to, he was looking externally for himself and to try and find trends and people who he can mirror. So he says, number one, forget all of that. Stop looking at this person and that person and that person and trying to be them, because who you need to know is you and exactly who you are, your vision for your life. And I know that it's really hard for people to hear that, because they're like, well, I don't know who I am. Well, have you tried to know who you are? Because for me, one of the things that I do in order for me to know who I am, shut the noise, shut it down, shut down your social media, your computers, your blogs, your audio, your whatever, shut down all the distractions and take pen to paper. For me, it's pen to paper. I actually write better than I talk. So for me, this is outside of my comfort zone because I have so many things going on. But when I come and I start typing out, I'm better at expressing and writing than I am in talking. But so what I do is I'll take a pen to paper and just ask myself, what do I want? And I start putting it down. You know, what experiences do I want in my life? I want a nice home. Put it down. I want to be able to be fit. I write it down. I want a nice body, blah, blah, blah. I want this level of endurance. I want to be a runner. I want to be able to do this and that and the other. All these experiences, and I'm saying this in the most authentic way, it's experiences that you want out of your life, okay? So for me, it's different from what it is for you, right? So that's what he says, is like, look within yourself internally and figure out who you are and what it is you want. The answer will come. But if you're looking at this person, I remember watching Jay Shetty, and he was saying how most of us are looking outside of ourselves to find ourselves, like as though you're going to find faith there. There ain't no faith. Faith is right here. Faith is me. And so I'm the only one who can define who I am for myself, right? Because otherwise you end up putting boxes around yourself based on what it is you see and people's perspective of you and what you believe people want you to be. So how many times do you find, like even for me, for the Hope Hub, this always is a struggle, because I'm like, maybe people want me to be like this or like this, or people want me maybe to be a preacher and preach, or people want me to be a counselor and counsel, or people want me to be a coach and coach. No, I can only be Faith. Now, whatever it is you define me as, that's y'all and your perspective of me. But who I am is, I am a flawed person, okay? I curse sometimes. You know, I can't tell you, like, someone recently told me, oh, I didn't hear you just say that, Hope Hub. And so I'm like, look, Hope Hub is not Faith. I am a contributor to the Hope Hub, and I am a very flawed, I'm a flawed individual, but I am God's creation, and so I'm perfect in the way He's created me, and so the only person I have to answer to is Him, right? I don't know how else to say it. So anyway, go back to David Goggins. He says, look within yourself for who it is you are. Stop trying to, figure out what do people want me to be, and try to box yourself up in this container, or this is maybe who looks like me, and so I'm gonna try and be that person. Ain't nobody out there that's you. It's just you. It's just you. So he says that. And so for him, he says, for example, he looked in the mirror and what he saw was someone who was pathetic. That was after high school. He saw a pathetic person. He saw someone who was not smart, who had learning disabilities, who was dumb. He actually says dumb. He saw someone who had health issues because he had kidney issues. He had a heart condition. This man, he had ADD. He was mediocre. All these things. And he just said, look, this is the truth of who I am at this time in my life. But who am I becoming? And am I willing to become that other person? And he decided, look, I'm going to be willing to become this Goggin. He calls himself Goggin. There's David Goggins, there's Goggin. So for you, if it works for you where you call yourself something else, like where you're like, this is Faith Mora. But the person that I'm becoming, or the person that I want to be, I'm going to call that person Hope, right? So in my head, I'm like, Hope would not act like this. Hope would not be this person. Hope has her ish together. Hope is disciplined. Hope is consistent. Hope is this and the other. So you call yourself something, and maybe that will let you live up to the person you want to become. But for him, he called himself Goggin. Even though for him, Goggin was when he took negative. Anyway, Goggin is a crazy person. You gotta watch him, because Goggin is that person who you never want to find yourself in the dark alone with Goggin. Because basically he says when he was in the military, Hell Week, when the people who are coming in, the commanders and the people who are telling them, you ain't nothing, da 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 da, and torturing them and taking them through all of that, he was like, Goggin messed them up so bad to the point where he like twisted the psychology to where he showed them, I am better than you on your last day of Hell Week when you are a recruit like me. So there ain't nothing you can do to me then that's worse than what it is I can do to myself. And so when Hell Week was over, every single day, the person would come and everybody's crying on the floor and everything. Him as Goggin, he would look the commanders in the face and be like, so what? Have a great day with your wife and your kids and your nice bed. See ya. See you tomorrow. Oh, you want me to be up at 2 a.m.? Guess what? I ain't going to sleep, So anyway, that's who he was. Okay, second thing is that he talks about having a cookie jar. Okay, a cookie jar is a jar, he says, like mentally, where you put in all your failures and all your successes. So you have something to draw on when you are feeling like shit. Okay, so he talks about how, for example, if he's having a really terrible day or something's about to kill him or he's on that last leg of the ultra marathon, he can go back to that cookie jar in his mind and remind himself of, do you know you are the only black Navy SEAL to perform such and such and such and such, or whatever he has in that cookie jar. So whatever for you it is, where you can say mentally, I'm gonna put this list of accomplishments of things that people, you know, spoke bad about me. People thought I couldn't make it. People thought I would never be able to graduate from high school, never be able to graduate from college. People thought I was nothing, you know, and I overcame this adversity and I overcame this challenge, and I had the mental fortitude to go for this. I had the balls and the cojones to stand up and do such and or stand up for office, whatever it is that you have in your cookie jar. Keep all those accomplishments so you have something to reach back into that bag when you need it. So that's what is the cookie jar, is a way to reset your mind in times when you're facing adversity. All right. Then the third thing he says is push yourself outside your comfort zone. All right. To improve, we have to be able to push ourselves outside of our comfort zones, to make sure that we're not complacent, to make sure that we're not mediocre, to make sure that we are cultivating the knowledge and the experiences that we need in order for us to push our limits. So that is a huge message for David, is that whenever you feel like I have reached my end, you know, there's no way. Woo! Comfort zones are killers, y'all. That there's no way I can push myself past this limit. He says, every time your brain tells you you have reached your very end, you've only reached 40% of what you think that limit is. Or you have 60% more that you could possibly push yourself to. And he displayed this when he talks about how he ran 100 miles. He hadn't been running, or he used to lift weights, but he had to qualify for the 139-mile race. And he had 4 days to qualify for it. So he looked for a race that was 100 miles that he could do within 24 hours. And he says at 70 miles, he thought he was done. And he talks, it's very graphic. He talks about how he had, you know, pee running down his leg, blood in his pee, poop in his back. It was pretty horrible. His kidneys had failed and he still had 30 more miles to go. And he was doing this because at some point, I think I read somewhere that he was trying to raise money for his foundation. And this foundation was I think it's called Special Operations Warrior. Oh Lord, I don't know what the name of his foundation is. But anyway, he has a foundation, and his foundation raises money for children who need scholarships to go to college. But specifically when he started, it was scholarships for a group of 8, I think Army, Navy SEALs that had crashed in a helicopter in Afghanistan, and they were all his friends, and all of them were married and they had kids. And so when he came stateside, he decided to form this foundation to take care of those individuals' children. So he was coming from a place of giving. And I think these ultra marathons pay up. You know, they give a winning, you know, they give you press, they give you money and endorsements and all of that. So he decided, this is what I'm going to do. And so that's why he decided to qualify. I'm going to run this 100 miles to qualify, to be a qualifier. And he did it. He did it. And that was within 4 days of him calling the race director and finding out that he needed to run 100 miles to qualify for the race. And he did qualify for the race, which was 139 miles in 4 months. But before that, he had to run the 100 miles to qualify. So you can imagine today, you deciding, even if you're a somewhat runner, but you've never run a marathon and you need to do this and you actually do it. So it shows how we as human beings can limit ourselves. And he talks about how human beings are superhuman, really. Like, we think we're normal, but really when the rubber hits the road, when you find yourself in tremendous challenges and adversity, you can make it through. You can make it through. So he talks about, you know, when you hit a wall, that there's always a window. There's always a door through that wall. You have to just find it. And then he talks about how you have to harness any negativity, any people And I love that. He says, you know, when people talk bad about you, when people say they can't do this or the other, you need to harness that negativity and use it for your growth and your strength. And you show them, you ain't talking about me. You don't even need to. He says, don't even show them sweat. Don't sweat it out. Don't be out there like someone said such and such, and you guys think you're all that, and da 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 on Facebook saying who talked about you, who said what. He's like, forget that. You don't have to advertise all of that. He says, let your actions speak for themselves, because guess what? In 6 months, in a year, if you put that negativity into action and use it to harness and motivate you and drive you, he says in a year, 2 years, whatever it is, they'll be looking at you and crying. They'll be like, what? Why was I talking about her? I didn't know she had that going on. So don't even sweat that small stuff. So the last thing I want to say is be driven. He talks about being driven. He talks about real warriors and all of us being able to cultivate that spirit of warriorness in whatever aspect of our life we're going through. Even though he does say that for Navy SEALs, for Army Rangers, for those people who have to put their lives down for another human being, there's only a very small group of people who can accomplish that. That ain't for nobody. But people like him, there's something about him that that God put in this earth and put in him that is able to be that person that can fight for this country and sacrifice their lives for this country and have that drive and that grit and that grind that can overcome anything. That grind and grit and determination and calluses in the mind that you built because of your drive and determination, to where you can stand outside of a door in Afghanistan, in Iraq, and you know that there might be a bomb on the other side or a grenade, and you're willing to breach that door and go in hard because you're willing to go the distance, because the distance is your life. The distance is your life. So lastly, y'all know I like to read and I love knowledge. And the other day I was like, you know what? Maybe I was reading all these books in preparation for the Hope Hub, because I have so many books and things I've read over time, and they weren't really like specifically for career, but it's just inspiration. And so what I'm finding is that the inspiration that I get, I found a vehicle to push it out into the world. Maybe for people who don't like to read, or people who don't like to watch inspiration, but maybe they will watch me and hear me. So all of a sudden I have a place where I can put it out in the world and I say, look, maybe somebody's going to watch it. I only need one person to watch it, right? So the last thing he says, which I absolutely love, and this is for me, all this stuff is for me really. But what he says is, he says, I get it. You have to have knowledge. And it's, there's a lot of knowledge out here in the world, right? And he gets that everybody wants to have that knowledge where you can open a book by Steve Harvey. I'm looking at a book by Steve Harvey right there on my cabinet. And it's the book Jump. And I can read it and I can get knowledge in terms of how he took risks and jumped and did something and overcame something, right? And if you want to lose weight, you can go online and read books about losing weight. And if you apply that knowledge, you can lose those 5 pounds that you've been wanting to lose. Or you can read a book on entrepreneurship and get all the strategies and everything that you need to do. But at the end of the day, what he tells us is that if you want it, you will do it. If you want it, you will do it. You will achieve it. So stop all the seeking of knowledge, and because knowledge is everywhere, but really at the end of the day, it's the execution of that knowledge that you get that moves the needle on your life. So even for me, I read a lot, but how much do I really execute all these strategies that I learn, right? Of all these, like I was looking at my videos, man. I was looking at my videos online, and I couldn't believe, y'all, that this is in the group. I had 130 videos from last year, July or June, when I started the group. And I was like, my God, like these are all videos that I've done. And I was looking at them because I actually wanted to download them on YouTube, because I'm starting a YouTube channel, because we're in the age of content creation, and you can use this platform and then multi-purpose the same content, put it on a different platform if you want your message to go out, use various platforms, right? But I was like, damn, I got 130 videos that I've done on here. And unfortunately, unless someone tells me different, I don't know why, but the videos on my group, I can't download them. On the page, which is the business interface of Hope Hub, I can go in and I can download the videos, which I did, and I put them on YouTube. Check me out, Hope Hub on the YouTube. Check Faith Mora, because right now it's so new. If you type in Hope Hub, you'll find all kind of stuff about bearings and bicycles and all kinds of stuff. But at the end of the day, I couldn't get the videos on my group, so I have to figure out how to download those videos. What was my point? My point is, I can give you all the strategies in the world. You can watch me on the daily. But if none of that stuff is sticking and none of those strategies are being implemented or executed, even for myself, me reading, me listening to David Goggins and saying, wow, he said something real inspirational, but I ain't applying, that ain't gonna do nothing for me, right? That ain't doing nothing for nobody. So my thing is with all of us, and that's what he's trying to say, is that there's a lot of knowledge, but at the end of the day, you need to move, take action, start it, do something about all the knowledge that you're getting. He was being interviewed, and then I'll finish, and he was being asked about, because he has so much insight and so much wisdom. And of course, when people have insight and wisdom, you're like, what book have you read? Who do you look up to? Who is the person who's mentored you? Who are the people you look for? And then you're like, oh, Paulo Coelho in his book, The Alchemist, said such and such. And I was like, whatever. And he was kind of like, nah, I don't really look up to nobody. He couldn't mention a book, a person, an interview, because his whole credo is look within yourself. Actually, the only thing he could really talk about that was kind of sort of like looking at someone is he talks about Rocky 1 or 2, Rocky, the movie Rocky. I know I've watched Sylvester Stallone, Apollo. And he talks about how there's one scene in that movie where that kind of was the drive. It works for him as a driving force when he's going for records with there's something he did where it was like 4,000 and something pull-ups consistently, just going 4,000 and something pull-ups. And he's talking about, when he watched that movie and he was watching Rocky being beat up until round 14, just failing. And at the end, I don't know who he's fighting, but he gets knocked down. That final punch that's like, it's over. And he says, the guy who was beating him up, now I gotta watch Rocky again. The guy who was beating him up turns around and he, he's like, I win, and the crowd is going crazy. And then what he doesn't know, unbeknownst to him, is Rocky, Apollo in the back, stands up and, blood all in his face, and he stands up and he's like, I'm ready to go. And the contender, I don't know what to call, the guy who's fighting him, he senses a shift in the crowd. And so he turns around and he sees him, he's gotten up. And he's like, what the heck? And so that moment and the music playing in that scene in the movie, which now I have to go and look up on YouTube, is what gets him hyped. Like David Goggins, because this guy actually goes, the winner, supposedly winner, when he sees the underdog has stood up and he's like, come on. It's like something happens in his eyes. And David calls that something, I think he calls it taking souls, is that at that point where you can tell in someone's face that their soul has been taken, because, you know, inside in their heart, they're like, oh, damn, it's over. They can see just the grit and the grind and the discipline and the tenacity and everything in you, the courage, the confidence, everything has just come back, and you're ready to die for what it is that you want. And that piece of it, and the person who thought they won, when they have that look, it's called taking souls. Anyway, you have to watch, you have to listen to David, but he says it's called taking souls. And at that point, you know it's over, it's a wrap, because no matter how much you beat down that person, that this person is now at another level, and it's that superhuman level, like something just kicks in where it's like, it's superhuman, it's spiritual, it's the ish. You're dead, you're gone. So yeah, I'm done. I think that's it. That's all I had for you on Thoughtful Thursday. I hope that encourages someone, that you got some kind of nuggets from this hope strategy. And I'll see y'all tomorrow. Okay, so I did reach out for admins. I'm still reaching out for admins. I got one person who wanted to become an admin, so I'm gonna keep saying it because I'm sure there's someone out there that's willing to do it. We'll figure it out as we go. I do want some males as well, so it's not just women, because when I first started this group, I was like, maybe I should have made it all women. But let me tell you, this is the craziest thing. I get more men who reach out to me and talk to me about the Hope Hub than women. Like on a personal level, like when I'm out in the community, I don't know why, but it's all these guys that watch and they get information from me, and they come to me and they tell me. I'll meet women all over the place, and they're gonna act like they don't even know me. Like, hand to God, they'll be like, oh yeah, hi, Sasa. None. They're not even gonna say nothing. And not to say that women don't support me, but I'm just saying, of all the people, like if I count how many men versus women, and this is just me here in the community when I go different places, and I'm not even there like with a badge that says Faith Mora Hope Hub, and I'm not expecting anybody to be like, oh, Niwewe, or whatever. But I know people who know me and who know I have this, and they're women, they ain't gonna say nothing. But men, they'll come and they'll tell me, you know, when you were talking about such and such, you know what you should talk about? You know what I'm thinking we could benefit from? And I'm just like, you watch? You're on Hope Hub, you know? And this is a group, I think, that's like 80% women versus men. So anyway, I don't know what that tells you. Maybe it's you know, maybe it just means that, you know, men do appreciate when women give them some insight in terms of what their thoughts are, what's motivating them, what challenges them in life, and how they work through their problems. Because I remember even telling my husband, maybe I think I need to take the men out of Hope Hub, and he was like, what? No, you know, and he's like, I benefit from it. You know, I like what you talk about. I like the information you're giving me, the knowledge that you're giving me. So I'm just saying, when you have, if any men want to be an admin, let's do this. and women, let's support each other. Let's grow this space. Let's speak it out. Take yourself out of your comfort zone. Stop limiting yourself. Stop fearing or being afraid. Like he says, ain't no time to be afraid. Life is too short. It's too short, y'all. Life is too short. It's too short. What am I going to say? Sometimes I worry. I'm like, you know, am I doing enough? Should I be doing more? How many people could benefit from something that I said? How many people could benefit from what you say on the Hope Hub? What you post on the Hope Hub? Okay? So I'll figure out the live video situation in terms of whether I should be posting on the page versus the group, because I want to be able to take those videos and flip them and put them on YouTube. YouTube is crazy. There's so many videos, but people use YouTube as a search engine. And as I had said previously, when I was looking for hope, I couldn't find it. Now, of course, this is like 5-6 years later, and there's so much content out there, and it's so hard to get through the muck of the content. But what I want to do is have a home, have the Hope Hub, have a home. And the Hope Hub is not even me, but it isn't. Y'all know what I'm saying. But have a hub of hope on different platforms that people can get some inspiration from, some hope from. Instagram is crazy too. I don't even know. Like, I don't know. Instagram, I'm having a really tough time navigating Instagram. Because on one side I'm like, but it's my Instagram. It's Faith's Instagram. But now I've called it the Hope Hub. So how can I post Faith stuff on the Hope Hub? And I'm going to go with Gary Vee. Gary Vee says nobody cares about, how perfect your brand is or what you look like or what. He's like, just be authentically you on every single platform. Stop trying to be what you think people want you to be. Just be you. If you want to post about China on Instagram on your page, then the next day post a naked baby. Then the next day post a bunch of corn that you just bought at the farmer's market. Then the next day post a meme. Then the next day post a beautiful picture of yourself in white. Then the next day post trees and whatever. Just do you. He's like, just do you. So otherwise, as you can tell, I'm great. I'm wonderful. I needed David today to kick my behind so that I can go running. Because this morning, let me tell you, I did that whole let me run, and I ran half a block, and then I walked the rest of 3 miles. And when I watched him, I was like, I am so damn pathetic. I need to get my life. Get your life, girl. Otherwise, y'all have a great day. And post. Go live. Participate. Engage. Bye. God bless you.